computer. There we go. I'll put it out on the
Yep,
cloud.
you're recording. I can see it now. You're recording.
Okay, good. All right. So when I'm working with Lightroom, if I've got a picture that I'm going to work with, here's the kinds of I don't like this. Hold on a sec. I can't get it to stop sharing now. One program at a time is much better. This is not letting me do the things that I need to do with my controls. See? It's always grabbing that. Dang it. Okay, so much for playing with it in advance. All right, so there we go. With Lightroom, if I have something that, especially if it's something that's extra dark, I'll actually come over and play with it. And it's part of the style. Kelly and most of you get pictures really close to what you want in the first place. So you do a lot of portraiture type of stuff. I don't. My stuff's more artistic. So I'll play around here. Like for this one, for instance, I would brighten it up. Then I would bring the highlights back and possibly even bring up shadows. To me, that gives me exactly what I want to work with, even though it started out as super dark. It doesn't matter to me. I can, as long as it's not so dark that the details are gone. But that's what I do with just about all of them. Some of them, see, you can see I've already adjusted this one. The dark ones are still pretty dark. But again, I can increase the exposure, decrease the highlights, and increase the shadows a little bit. And that gives me a lot of detail and a lot of, it still gives me all the lights and darks that I want. So that works out really good. So I do that with just about everything before I work with it. Okay, let me switch over to, there we go. Now we're gonna work with this one right here. Normally what I would do with this first thing is always to make the hair bigger and possibly tweak in the waist a little bit. And I'll make a copy of the layer so I have a previous one to go to. And I'll take the top layer and do my liquify. That bottom layer is a life preserver for me, because sometimes I screw up and I need to be able to go back. Usually when I'm working with hair around the face, and you notice I'm not going in the center here, I'm going to the outside. I just wanted to pull it out a little bit. Do it on both sides here. I'll purposely screw up so I can show you why I made a copy. Some of you might have noticed I just made her face wider. They usually notice it, especially if their face is turned and their nose is bigger or longer. Yeah, they notice that right away. All right, so I've got that like poofed out the way I want. Say okay. Now I've got the top one and the bottom one, and I go like this and look to see what's changed and what I screwed up. Her hand is a little funny there on her shoulder, and of course her face is like really poofed up. So I'm going to do the masking layer, and I'm going to paint with black just all over her face. The cool part about hair is you don't have to worry about it. The hair will look fine. It's not going to mess that up at all. I'm going to go over here where her hand was, unmess that up. Now we can look at it, and now her hair is popping out, but maybe there's one little thing on her ear. There we go. Her hair is popping out, but her face isn't. Everybody see that? Yep. Of course, if you want to see what's there, you can hit the slash key over the return key, and you can see where you just painted. So you can make sure that you got everything, and there's not a big section in the middle of her face that you missed or something. So that's pretty cool. You can do other things too. Change the mood. If I go back into Liquify, I can actually bring her shoulder up a little bit more if I wanted to do that. Bring her hand down a little bit. So you can get a little more attitude out of the thing. Okay. Now I'm one of those people that flattens layers all the time. It's like, okay, so far so good, and I flatten it and go from there. Now this gal here has a bit of a skin condition where she's got these little dots all over her. Now normally I only use one filter. I've got Nik, I've got all those others, but I only use Imaginomic portraiture. I'm not going to use it today. I'm going to use the frequency separation instead and show you how that works. I'm not going to use any filters, just maybe a couple of actions. And it's interesting, speaking of Nik, which was the thing yesterday, and thanks, Kelly, you did a great job. One day, a couple of years ago, I was contacted by a bunch of people who said, does your Nik still work on your Mac? I said, well, I think so. And they're like all in a panic because it stopped working. And I went and checked and mine didn't work either. It turned out that I hadn't used it in months because I'd weaned myself off of it. And I didn't actually use Nik for anything anymore. Now, Kelly's little presentation means I'm going to go play with it some more, of course. But it was one of those things. It's like, oh, well, I guess I didn't notice it because I don't use it. All right, I have a action here for frequency separation, which I'll share to the group. If you don't already have my set, I have a little set that has the dodge and burn and frequency separation stuff together. I do my frequency separation different than pretty much everybody else. Not completely, but a little off. I tried it like 3 times in the past and I didn't understand it, didn't work well, took forever to do. I said, no, I don't like this. Finally, I decided I just have to learn it. So it pops up and asks how I want to blur the low frequency one. And I look to see that if I was to blend her arm here, is it smooth enough? If I want, I can go a little more blurred, and now it's more smooth. A continuous look to the tone. I'm going to go a little bit less there and say, okay. Now I've got 2 layers. Now in mine, I actually have names on the layers. The mixer brush for the colors and the details is the clone stamp. And it automatically picks the clone stamp for me, gets it all ready to go. And all I have to do is find things that I want to edit out. Let's look at her arm here. I probably won't do all of them because I don't want y'all sitting here watching me do this. When you see the cursor look like this, I'm pushing the Alt or the Option key. Depends on if you have a Mac. I'll pick the area I want and then paint over that area with the other. Good old clone stamp. I really didn't actually use the clone stamp until I started doing this. Now, the whole idea with frequency separation, of course, is it's not taking the color over here and putting it here. It's just taking the texture from here and putting it here. So I don't have to worry about it. If I was using a clone stamp normally and I select from over here and did it over here, this would be a lot lighter because it's going to be picking up the light from over here, and we don't want that. It still isn't 100%. If I click over there and come here, it's going to still be a little lighter, but still not as bad as over here. I usually pick something close by. And you kind of learn after a while that if you work your way in a certain direction, you don't really have to even select anymore because it selects relative. If I select here, for instance, it's going to be relative wherever I go. So I don't have to worry about it. Not that I worry about things anyway. Worrying is usually pretty much a sign of a wasted imagination. All right, so you can see how I can take the spots off of her. Same over here. In some cases, though, you go in and you go to take spots off. You see how I just tried to take spots off of there, and it didn't work because this is light and this is dark. it did the texture, but it didn't change the color, which is what it's supposed to do. Now, if I want to blend this, that's so there's not let's look a little closer. It's not so splotchy looking in here. I can pick the colors or the mixer brush. The mixer brush. I love the mixer brush. I could no longer do this without the mixer brush. It's one of those things I've gotten hooked on it. So you take the mixer brush and you pick a color that's pretty close to what she is already. You kind of want the brush to be sort of that color. And then you can kind of wiggle it around in the area that you want. Start smoothing it out for you. Now, if you go long strips like this, if I went like this, it's going to pull this dark and put it down there, which of course I don't want. So I wiggle it around up here, let up on the mouse, and then come down here. Because if I come down here and move up, it's going to do the same thing. Now the color I picked over here is a little dark. So if I go for a lighter color, then it's going to stay that way as I smooth here. And of course, if I do this, it's going to make it lighter in that direction too. So you can do the same thing on the arm. If I want to make this whole arm looks a little smoother than that, not smooth as far as the texture will stay, but I can zip back and forth on it here. And now the arm looks, it's more contiguous as far as the coloration. Do the same thing down here. Do it for her arm over here. Does everybody see how it does that? Kind of smooths it out. I'm sorry, what? Did somebody say something? No? Okay. So I'll go up and do some detail on her face. I used to get a lot of crap because I always smooth the faces out. They look like Hollywood. Actually, Kelly's looks a lot like that too. And I don't care. I love it. It's a beautiful look. But I decided, all right, I'll do some with texture. That's fine. So that's really when I needed to learn this one. So you can see I can take out most of it. This is time consuming, but kind of fun. You have to be kind of careful. If you get really close to the edge, you've got to remember that the color one is blurred in there. And if I kind of come over to the edge, it's going to get a lot darker because it's blurred that over into here. So can't really go around the edges much. All right. Now I'm going to do, I'm going to flatten it again. And I'll do dodge and burn. Now, I've got an action for that. I do it different than Kelly does. Mine's set for midtones, and that's all I do. He does it with curves, so shadows and highlights are included. I just do it with midtones, and it does what I need. First thing I always do is hair. That's the first thing a woman looks at is her hair to see how it is. So if you can put in the highlights that she pays a lot of money for, she's pretty happy with that. And you can really make it look like the light's coming from a particular area. That's what I love about dodge and burn. You can play with people's heads as far as where the light is, where it's coming from. I always do the lips. Kind of wish her eyes were closed. If her eyes were closed here, I don't think they are in the other one here. No. If her eyes were closed, I would put a little stripe of dodge right across the eyelid on both sides. You would be shocked at how that changes the shape of the eye and the face. I see dodge and burn is all about giving it shape. Of course, you just put light where light normally is. And sometimes you can put light where light probably is, even if it isn't. So there's a lot of times since I do a lot of fine art nudes, there might be light coming in from one direction, and I'll have light reflect off of one breast onto the other one, even if it wasn't there in the first place. It still looks good, but I can add it.
Hey, Dave, AJ asked, do I see a gap in this on this subject or in the subject right hair?
A gap where?
In the subject right hair.
Oh,
I assume it's up in her hair. I don't know. Is there a gap in her right hair? AJ, can you?
oh, over here? Yeah, you're right. I poofed it out, and then
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
you're
you're
right.
pointing it out.
I did.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I can use Liquify and fix and change that a little bit. Yeah, or I can take out part of it here if I want, make it flat again. Should look good. Yeah, good eye. I didn't see that. I'm ignoring a lot of things I probably wouldn't. Although there's a lot of people who always point out things going, did you notice that? And you usually know. Sorry, Kelly, but I usually say I used to work for the government, so it's good enough for government work.
You biatch.
But that's good. I could hardly see it on my screen. And then I do use burn. By the way, I've got this set at about 9% for these. Typically, if there's a lot of clothes and it's darker clothes or it's leather or something, I might crank that up to 30% and do it on the clothes because it's harder to get it to show up. But if you do that, you can really make it pop. I'll put dark around the edges of the face, makes it stand out more. I showed an artist friend that I discovered that, and she said, "Oh yeah, we all do that." I said, "Oh, okay." I hate it when people think of things before I do, then they claim it as their own. I don't have a lot of place. Here's an example. If I put dark in through here, it just gave it a whole bunch of extra shape. Well, you can sort of see it. Whenever there's like an arm that crosses another arm, I had somebody once, this stuff was really hard to see because everything was really pretty dark most of the time. He came over and visited for a while, and I asked him, "Have you ever used Dodge and Burn before?" He said, "No, I've read about it." I said, "Oh, sit down." And in 10 minutes, I showed him Dodge and Burn. He said, "Wow, that's pretty cool." And from that point on, I could see all of his pictures. It was great. Changed his whole style in 10 minutes. I expect most of you have probably done a lot of this anyway. So, but yeah, poofing out the hair is important. The Dodge and Burn part, there's, I'm going to flatten this again. Oh, the reason I do it in 2 layers, by the way, Dodge and Burn separate. And each of these are 50% gray, and they're set to overlay, which makes them clear. So I can draw on them. It's like drawing on pieces of plastic. But the difference is having them in their own layers, I can change the opacity. So if I like way overcook something, I can put it to 50% or whatever I want. Same with Burn. Sometimes I forget and I do them all on the same layer, but generally that's the reason why they're on layers as opposed to doing it directly to the image. So I'm not sitting here worried about, oh, that's too dark or that's too light. I can adjust it after the fact. So, okay. So any questions so far? It's all pretty simple stuff. Okay. One of the things that I like to do to the models is make them taller. So I'm going to select the whole picture, and I'm going to do a free transform, which is up in I think it's in edit. Yeah, free transform is right there. I think it's Control T or a Command T. And I have it on classic. So I hold the shift key down and I can stretch her and make her taller.
Hey, AG asked, how do you return skin color to normalcy with changes from burning?
I actually do that in Lightroom. When I go back to Lightroom, I'll actually change. I'll give her a tan, or I'll make her very, very cool looking. And I just do it in Lightroom. There is a tool you can use to do that. I don't know if I can show you that tool. It's kind of cool. It's well, I'll show you the tool if I can remember where it's at. Oh, it's in the dodge and burn area. There's the sponge tool. I don't know how many of you may have used the sponge tool before. The sponge tool is kind of cool. It's a desaturation tool. So if I take the sponge here, and I want to set it less than 77 for sure. I'll leave it high so you can see the difference. But see, if I draw on her hair there, see how that's not red anymore? Okay, I can take and reduce color in anything if I want to use the sponge tool to do it. So if something is a lot redder than you want, for instance, you can change them that easy. But I do the whole picture at once generally. Knowing the sponge tool is there is kind of cool. But and now it's decided I want to deal with the whole screen again and not. I wonder what makes it do that. Okay. Now I'm stuck. There we go. All right. So we made her taller by stretching her out. And you can't tell. Her face is just a little bit longer, but she wouldn't notice the difference. I've never had anybody say, hey, my face looks weird. There you go. Trying to think what else I might do to her. Let me save it to Lightroom, and I'll show you what I do to it from there. Okay, so this is exactly a copy. You can see I'm using one I did once before. Oh, it's back to doing that thing again where I can't tell where I'm at.
Hey, Dave, I think I know what's going on.
Yeah, once I go up here and bring up my controls, then it switches back. What's going on?
I've been having a problem, like you, I use Lightroom a good bit. I've been having a problem with it where it just jams and just starts sucking up CPU.
Oh, well, this isn't the problem I'm having. You all probably can't see. I've told it to select a part of my screen to broadcast to you so I can switch between apps. And every once in a while, it decides that it wants to control the area instead of me being able to click inside the area to what I want. So it says, oh, you want to change the area? No, I don't. And it's not letting me do that. Okay. But yeah, Lightroom will do that.
Yeah, being a Unix systems engineer, I kind of know a little bit how it works in the background. It's a resource contention problem, and it's some kind of bug they've introduced recently.
Yeah, I love it when they introduce bugs. It's like, oh, we haven't had a bug lately. Let's put one in there.
I've been having the same problems.
Yeah. Okay, so from here, this is really all the same controls that you've got in Camera Raw, except Camera Raw has more. I mean, you can do more individual colors and things. And if there's a way to do that here, I haven't found it. But here I play a lot with shadows and highlights, And I may end up with a completely different picture when I'm done. I use shadows a lot to bring things back out from the background. I'll use highlights usually to reduce the highlights, and then I'll increase the exposure, which brings the whole thing back out. Dehaze, a little touch of dehaze sometimes does something. This is the season to taste thing. You change it the way you like it. But right up here is where I would change whether I want her to be more tan or cooler. And of course, it's the whole thing. Unless I want to go up to the brush, I can go to the brush, and from there I can. I'll do something extreme here so you can tell. That's really turning her hair a lot bluer. There we go. So you can see the difference there. So yeah, you can use a brush on certain areas. So if a certain area turned a lot browner or something, dodge and burn will do that. And you got to kind of keep an eye on it. So, but yeah, I do most of my finished work is right here. And then Kelly showed the light, the center light thing, which of course has got tons more control than this has. But I'll use this feature right here if I want to darken around the edges. I'll create a, all right, hit the H, there we go. And from here, I can tilt this and make it the size I want. We can't see it in this picture because it's dark already on the outside edges, but basically you can, see, grab the wrong thing again. I don't know what makes it do that. Dang it. Okay, give me my tools.
Hey, Dave, I got to run. I've got a local photography group that I'm doing judging for images tonight at 7. So I got to log in and prepare for that.
All right, we'll see you later.
All right, record it. And, you know, my Kalina's watching it in the other room, so she's got you live,
Okay.
but I got to run.
All right, sounds good. But see here, now I can change, you can see it change around her. If I hit the H again, you can see the circle. So I can change this around, put the light where I want on her. If you've got some background, it really looks good when you do that. Does anybody want to see me put a little bit of a background in here who didn't see the background the other day?
Go for it.
Okay. I didn't pick one out, so all right. This is making me mad here. Let's put a street light behind her. It's like right there.
You're gonna do that on Lightroom?
No. Quit paying such close attention.
I thought that was gonna be different.
Yeah. It's like, wow, Lightroom, you can put backgrounds in. That'd be awesome. I'm still having trouble with this thing deciding that I want to change what you see as opposed to me actually just picking up things. There we go. And moving them. Okay, I'm back in Photoshop, by the way. And if I want to put this light behind her, I just off in the background, I can put it like that. Say okay. Now I'm going to unlock her and put her on top of the light. Okay, so now what's behind her is the light. and I just want just the top part in here to work. So I put a layer in here, a masking layer, and I'm going to pick a paintbrush, but I am not going to paint with black. I'm going to paint with a very light gray. And then that's it. That's all I have to do is paint right in here. And now we have a light lamppost behind her. If I go down far enough, of course, that's a problem because I didn't put in that much of the picture. Now, if I want the lamp to be brighter, I can go to a to a darker gray and put it just over the lamp. And now the lamp's lighter. So I kind of like this. Now see on her hair here, where the gap is, you notice that I let some of that go off onto her hair. To me, that makes her look like she's there. That lamp is glowing on her hair. And I don't have to worry about clumps of her hair being gone because I cut her out in one and pasted her in another one. You know, to me, it just works so much easier this way. But that's how easy it was to put a background in, change the mood of the whole picture. And now she's a lady of the evening or something. I don't know. She's out there with a lamppost. I don't know what that's all about. Okay, so there's a couple of other things I wanted to show you, which it's related to editing, of course. I wanted to show you how I do reflections on the floor. Now this is my studio here. You can kind of tell by studio stuff on the sides. I got tired of cleaning my floor, so I bought 2 4x8 sheets of wallboard that is white and shiny, and it can take a beating. I've had 2 in here now for 1.5 years, and you know, I can just mop over them a little bit, clean a couple spots, and they stay clean and very reflective. Actually, if I get really down close to the floor and take a shot, most of my reflections done for me. It's perfect. When I try painting the studio floor, it's good for 1 shoot. After that, it's got scuff marks and things that just don't come up. So here's how I would do a reflection on this. I'm not going to edit it or anything, but I'm just going to do a selection. And if you do reflections, typically, if it's like somebody laying down or something, you have to lay down too. You have to be on the floor because you need as close to a straight line across their body as possible. It works here because we just have a shoe. So we're going to be okay. I'm going to pick this much of it. I'm going to do a Control C, which copies it, Control V, which pastes it, and a Control T, which puts it into Free Transform. Then I go up to Free Transform and say Flip Vertical. And then I move this down here. Pretty close, doesn't have to be exact.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
There was a previous question in the chat room, and for those people that missed your session on painting with gray, can you tell them, is it overlay mode? What is your percentage?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we can go back and look at that in just a second.
Great.
And yeah, because I didn't consider the fact that somebody hadn't seen it. I should have. Sorry. Okay. So I've got the second layer here now, which is her feet, basically. You know, the bottom part of this dress. I can do a couple of things. I can. Well, let me just say it's okay. Having trouble with the controls here. There we go. All right, so we've got this other layer. Okay, I can just simply, and it's just a normal layer. There's no overlays or anything special. I can just change the opacity and I've got a reflection. But it's a really sharp reflection. If I want to go up here to filter and do a Gaussian blur on it, Now it's a blurrier background or blurrier reflection. Now, if you want to be really detailed about it, you put in a you put in a masking layer and a black black brush, and you zoom in on the foot or whatever things that might overlay, and sometimes you'll actually see a piece of this other foot over here. So you might want to go in and you know, clean that up. In this case, it didn't. I probably should have done something that screwed up this so you could see it. But you'll want to look at that and basically just paint out anything that is covering the real life stuff. But there you go. I let it overlap a little bit because that's how it would look right. Now, if she had 2 feet down and the other foot was over here and one was here, then this doesn't work well because then the reflection shows up, you know, in front of this foot, and that's not right. But what I've done in the past is actually do, if there's 2 feet here, I'll actually select the whole thing, do it for 1 foot, then I'll turn around and paste it back in, move it up to where the other foot is, reflection is there. Then I'll paint out all of this and just paint in the reflection of the second foot. I just try and avoid that if I know that that's what I'm going to do. But there you go. There's the reflection with it and without it. And by doing that, you notice that slot right there in the floor, which of course wouldn't be in the finished one, because I did it with you know, changing the opacity way down, it leaves other things there, other kinds of shadows and things are going to stay there, which is good. All right, let's go back to this one, and we'll do that again, just to show. Okay, it started out with me dragging this in here, and you know, of course, you can look and see where you want to put it. Sometimes it fills up the whole thing, whatever. But it's just an image, stock image. I'm going to take the picture of her and put it on top of that image, and I'm going to put a masking layer on. Now, nothing's changed here. It's all normal. Nothing's different. Just a masking layer. Normally, you'd mask with black, right? Okay, and that would like put it in here like this, but you see it's a problem. It would be a painting nightmare to get that right. I could cut her out and paste her in, and that's what I would do if I needed it to be that bright, but I don't. So I'm going to go back to that. All right, now I'm going to go to that masking layer, and I'm not going to paint with black. I'm going to paint with gray, a really light gray. And you can then turn around and repaint it. If it's not bright enough, you can change the gray, paint it again. I'm just going to paint around her with a brush. And that's it. I let a little of it in her hair because I want that light to look like it's in her hair. I'm going to paint some white down here to get that out. Okay. So by not painting with black, it's almost like an opacity thing, except it's not. And no, you can't. There's no way to use opacity to do this. But if I want that light to be brighter, I make it a little darker gray, closer to black. And then I'll just go touch it right where the light is. And it brings the light back in. Okay. That makes sense. That takes some practice. It's one of those things that it's a skill that after a while you get really good at it. But just adding anything in the background is so easy. Let me try a different background here. There we go. That's grabbing the wrong thing again. We'll do this street, this street background here. Come on. Not letting me. I used to be in IT, and I'm pretty sure the computer knows that. It gets back at me for all the things that I called computers in the past. Come on, man. Stop it. What is... See, it's not it keeps saying, oh, you want to change the size of your screen. No, actually I don't. I just want to touch stuff in the screen. There. Now, I don't know why, but there. Okay, so now I've got the street scene. Looks like the Louvre there, huh? And I'm gonna make that bigger. We'll make it all the way here. Okay. And say okay to it. Then I'm going to take this street light, throw it away. I'm going to take the masking layer and throw it away, and I'm going to put her over the Louvre there. Now I'll put a masking layer back in and paint again in gray. I'll do a really light gray, especially since there's lights in it and everything. And just paint around her here. Now, the one thing you will have to watch out for is like this one has a pattern, okay? The pattern from the lights and things. Now the lights coming across here like this, you could probably leave those in there and it would look normal because it's a little bit of a lens flare-ish kind of thing, but certainly not this down here. This down here doesn't work so good, okay? Because, well, you can see through it. So you just paint that away with some white over her. There we go. So now we don't have the pattern in there, but I kind of like this. That looks good. So we'll leave it like that. So yeah, this is kind of a haphazard way to do it. And when I first did it, I thought, well, I'm cheating or something. But no, I actually found out other people did it this way. It's pretty cool. One of the other things you can do to focus it more on her is to go back and make it darker gray and go all around the edges, way out here. Okay. That makes it look more like that's part of the picture, but it still doesn't take away from her because it's darker in the middle and then she stands out in that. So any other questions? Anything else in chat that anybody said, asked about? Okay. So I've got a few minutes here to show you a problem image. Molly's a beautiful woman and she's great. I took this picture and when I went to edit it, I went, oh my God, how am I supposed to get rid of that? Okay, I'm going to show you two ways to do that. I didn't do frequency separation in the beginning, so I didn't have that as an option. So I'll show you with frequency separation how we're going to make that go away. So I'm going to run the action that I have, which just sets up the two layers. And let's see, that'll probably work. Say okay. Now it's in the details, okay, and it tells me to use the clone stamp, which it's already picked for me and everything. And then there's the color brush. So we're going to do the detail first, and I'm going to try and take some of this out. Problem is, you see it's not changing the color. It's just changing the texture. So I can change the texture of all of this to match another part of her belly with no problem. But of course it doesn't do the color, which is the whole idea. Now I'm going to go to the mixer brush one, the colors. And I'm going to come over here and select the mixer brush. And I'm going to select skin tone, whatever's average in here. It's not, that part's not important. And then I'm going to blend this up and down. Remember I showed you before, if I took from a dark area and put it to the light area, it blurred it that way or the other way. I'm actually going to go back and forth like this. And with a little bit of blending and without messing up the texture, that's gone. Okay, I'm not going to get into detailing all the rest of this, but you can see the difference between that and that. Okay, now let me show you a different way, which was how I did it before. Oh man, I impressed myself so much. So I got to show you. Okay, I'm going to make a copy of this layer. So I have 2 layers, right? Okay, and they're both identical. And I'm going to use Liquify. Okay, and this is going to look weird, but I'm going to pull her belly down. Okay, so her belly's been pulled down on the top one, bottom one's like that. So I put in my masking layer, I paint in black. I am painting in black, right? No, gotta use a paintbrush. That works, okay. There you go. I just stretched the mark below the panty line and then I painted it back in. Now, if I flatten this and I look close, you can see that her skin is stretched a little bit. I can then use the mixer brush, click in the skin here, and just lightly wiggle it around a little bit. And you can take those stretched marks off of it. And there you go. Another way to get rid of it. What do you think? Is that sneaky or what? So I sat there, and when I first saw it, I sat there for 5 minutes going, how am I going to make that go away? And that was the solution.
It's a happy little accident.
Yeah, happy accidents. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so that was pretty cool. And of course, with her popping up the hair, the whole works was important. Kind of made the cheek a little less cheeky and narrowed her down a little bit. And she totally loved the picture. I don't think I have it up in Lightroom to show you the finished one, but anyway, that's how I fixed the belly on that one, which is pretty cool. Anybody have any questions?
No.
As I'm sitting here once again trying to figure out how to go back and forth. I'll know how to do this the next time because I'm not going to let it embarrass me like this. So,
Dave, I don't see any questions in the chat room, so.
oh yeah. Fortunately, we can't hear the snoring because everybody's muted, right?
No, that's pretty awesome. My question to you is when you put the lamplight in and you did the gray painting over top of it, you know, one of the things that I'd love to do is that yellow from the lamp, how do you put that on the side of the girl's body? How would you do that?
That good question. And this is something that I'm actually working on. The next time I have I kind of mentioned this last time and I haven't perfected it yet, but here's one thing that you can do. Let's say I wanted some yellow over here on her. Well, of course I could paint that on her, but let's say there's some fire behind her, reds and yellows and you know, all bright and of course detailed, which is not what you would want on her skin. you would want it to just glow kind of a an
Needs
orangish
to
color.
stay a little higher than 2, so leave it up. I had it, I want the grease, I want the bacon grease to cook. I put it on, I did good. I said, I'm not gonna put it on high and walk away and my husband bitch. I put it on mid-high.
What are you cooking?
Okay.
Hey,
It
Dave,
ain't gonna hurt it to bubble, okay?
you can do it
It
as a
ain't gonna bubble
gradient.
out.
Do
Hey,
what?
Lisa,
Sorry.
can we come to dinner?
Sorry.
You can do that as a gradient and then mask it.
I could, and that's possible. Here's another way that you can do it. You just remember that on this background here, you can paint on it. You're only using a copy of it, right? So if you want her arm to have some of that yellow or some reflection of this, you can actually select that color. Why is it? Oh, wrong layer. I'm sure I'm the only one that ever does that. Get a little yellowish there. And then we can go to this layer. This is the tricky part. I don't think you can actually paint on the bottom one very easily.
Just put a layer in between and use a brush that's feathered with the orange color or the yellow color or whatever.
Oh, good idea.
See if that works.
Yeah, probably will. Yeah, there you go. Good thinking. Well, let me turn this back up again.
And I've done the same thing in Lightroom, is just use the brush that's feathered, and then you can just do a dab like how you did to the lighten it.
There we go. So it looks like the answer is to really put the layer above all of it, so you can see it, and then you can paint right on her face if you want, or the hair. It's a little too strong. Yeah, you'd have to get really artistic with it. I don't like the hair part, but
You have to make another layer just for the hair.
probably. And
just
that's against my abilities to have 30 layers. That would drive me completely nuts.
Just reduce the brush opacity or less brush flow.
Oh, yeah, that's true. There we go. Good thinking. I missed my nap today. There we go. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now I don't have to figure that other way out that I had in mind. Yeah. Well, the other way actually would be pretty important. Let's say she did have flames behind her all the way around, and you've got the detail. If you paint in here to get rid of all the detail, yeah, you could paint with an orange if you wanted, but remember, you can also paint on the background. And if you're letting some of the background show, actually another way to do it was just use the blending brush. Just take the blending brush on the background, and right here on the background, blend it back and forth. So it'll be an average of all of these colors, and that will be what glows on her skin, not the detail that's on her skin. Let's see if we can do a little of that with this one. I'm going to do the blending brush, and that's about the right color. See, it won't let me paint on there. Not with these in the way. Is this not? There we go. Rasterize it. Now will it let me? Yeah, it'll let me paint on it now. So I could conceivably just blend in here, and well, it's not showing up as well as I would like it to. But by blending back and forth, if we look at that one, see where the blending is? where I put a big smudge in it, that's where her skin is and where it would have shown the lights and the lines. But by blending back and forth, that color is going to blend on her skin. Let me see if I can find a better place to do that. I don't have it very bright near here. Let's do that. Let's put a little brighter stuff on her skin here somewhere. All right, now what am I doing wrong? Okay, that'll kind of show it. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the background itself, take the paintbrush and, no, the blending brush. There we go. And the blending brush, and I can kind of blend it on her arm. And the light is still there. Here's some detail. That's what I really want, is to have the detail go away, but the color stay. There. How's that look? You can kind of see the light from that onto here now because we blended it. Same with her arm.
What tool is that, Dave? A blend? Is that a
The
mixer
blending brush? Yeah, I'm sorry. It's the mixer brush. See, I wasn't home when Adobe called me and asked what to call this brush. And they call it the mixer brush and I call it the blending brush because I think it blends. They think it mixes. So sorry, I call it the blending brush all the time and I don't know why, but it's the mixer brush.
So you're using the mixer? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's mixer brush. And you thought there was yet another brush out there, huh? Sorry.
Got excited for a second.
Yeah. Well, I got excited when I first discovered it, and then I was really pissed off to find out it's been there for years, and I didn't know. It's been an hour, but I want to show you guys one more little trick that you may or may not know about, and it's in Lightroom. And it's one of those things I also learned back when, back when I first started, I used a cloth background. And the problem with the cloth background is it was a kind of cloth that was wrinkled all the time. There wasn't even any way to, there wasn't even a way to iron it. If you wanted this to be a really white background, let me show you a little trick you can do in Lightroom. I'm going to take the brush and I'm going to make the exposure really high. And there's an auto mask checkbox. Have any of you ever messed with the auto mask before? Auto mask is awesome. You click the auto mask. The tricky part is remembering that you clicked it because it's going to stay that way until you unclick it. Okay, I'm going to leave the flow up there pretty good. At this point, if I click in the white area, it's going to make it whiter, which of course I can control by, since I'm still working on it, I can control how white I want it to be. Okay, but here's the cool part. It's auto masking. If I get close to her, it's not going to put it on her. So I can get it really close to the edge of her without worrying about getting it on her. Now it's still doing it a little bit because I'm not doing it, detailed. You have to play with it a little bit. But see in the background, if you want, it's a little blue, there we go. If you want, if you need to get rid of a bunch of wrinkles and stuff like that, you can actually use this auto mask to do it. Now it's based on what color you click on. So if you're clicking down here on this color, it's going to do it only to that color. That's why it's not doing it on her. If I click on her, it's going to do, it's going to change and lighten whatever skin that I run it across to the things that are that color.
It basically works if you where you've got the crosshairs in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
If that crosshair touches like the blue, then it will go ahead and pick up the, do it on the blue. But as long as you keep that crosshair, so that outer ring
Right.
basically off what you don't want to affect, you're okay.
Yeah, you want to try and kind of keep it in the feather between the two rings if you can when you're going across like this. But yeah, it's a pretty cool little feature for those who haven't ever played with that. Always remember to uncheck this, because later on you're doing something, you go, why is this not doing what it's supposed to? And it's because it's only going to do it to whatever color you touch in the first place. So anyhow, any questions about anything that we did? Want to see anything again, or?
Dave.
Yeah.
I saw a picture of yours where you have the reflection on the bottom and behind the girl.
Mhm.
So you did that, I guess you did it twice?
I did. One against the back wall and one on the floor. And if you look at it really close, none of it really matches at all. But it adds to the picture. Again, that's why I changed it from photography to artistics on my name. So people stop inviting me to film their weddings. And when they say, well, that doesn't look very realistic, it's like, because I'm an artist, it's not supposed to be. They want realism, they can use their cell phone. So, yeah. So you've looked at some of my stuff. Is there anything that you've seen that you had a question about?
I got to jump, Dave, but it was great. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for coming. We'll see you at the next one. I don't even know when that is, but so I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Okay.
I know you're all here because you have no place else to be.
I can watch your videos every day, man.
Thanks, Dave. It was really excellent.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
you.
That was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. But I got to jump too. I got work to do.
You're welcome. Work to do. I've been retired for 10 years. That's a dirty word, four-letter word for me.
My paying job funds my non-paying job.
Yeah, well, I'm retired and I'm really kind of upset because now everybody else knows how I live. Which is like, is it time for a nap yet? Or is it time to eat something? And in between,
it was great, Dave. I really enjoyed the liquefy trick. I mean, I work with liquefy a lot and I never did that. So I'm definitely gonna try.
Oh, you've done liquefy of hair before, haven't you?
No, but not this way. I never used the trick that you showed us for fixing the skin issue.
Oh, yeah. Well, and to make sure, the little smiley face she had on her belly.
Yeah.
You know when I use the trick on the liquefy, when I blur the background, and normally you got a hair around the person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I do what he did to fix her belly. I do that to clean the hair around the person when you blur the background.
Do you ever select the person and then reverse it, and then that way the background is selected, and then tell it to blur that? Because if you do that, it shouldn't change the person at all. That's how I do it when I want to blur the background. Is I select them, and it's really nice now with the subject select, and then I invert the selection so it's really the background, and then I blur that.
Yes, I didn't thought of that.
It seems to work pretty well. So, yeah, I do that when I didn't use the 1.2 lens I wanted to use. So. Well, that's cool. Yeah, it's fun to have the tools and go, I wonder how I would fix that. So anyway, well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck on your trip.
Yes, I need that.
You need the trip, you need the trip, or you need the luck?
Need the luck. So far, 2 of my flights have been changed, so we had to work on putting me on different flights. So It's gonna be interesting.
We live out here in the country, and we're close enough to Phoenix that at night we can see blinky lights, you know, in the sky and the whole works. And we go out at night now and we might see one. You know, it looks
I
really,
know, right?
it looks
Yes.
really weird to us. There's just no
It's
flights
very
going on.
different.
So
I agree. It's very different, and it's gonna be an adventure to do through the airport and do this. So far, from what I'm seeing, there's 7 people on this flight. We'll see. You know, we'll see how that goes.
well,
So,
you can easily do the social distancing
yeah.
thing with that many people. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm really I'm really interested how this is gonna go. I'm gonna keep you guys updated.
Yeah. When there's only 7 people on the flight, it's going to cost them money to get you there.
They keep flying empty planes because it's still cheaper than having them grounded, you know, from their standpoint. So it is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Great seeing
Hey, guys.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, bye. Thank you.
Studying the insights on the spread of the virus, researchers now say it was actually spreading in several cities long before we previously knew. Here's Miguel Almaguer. The new study out of New York today confirming how